Okay, so the authorities have just entered the room, are now taking their seats and welcoming the authorities that are here today. Many of them have come from Santiago, others, many investors as well, experts on investments, and also at the national and the Magallanes region. That welcome everybody, and Ms. Fresia Santov. We want to welcome you. El auricular anterior estaba bien, así que sí, te acomodo así, déjalo así, no te preocupes. The Ministry of Finance and the Agency of Promotion of Foreign Investment in Invest Chile. We'd like to kindly welcome you to the starting conference of the International Investment Forum Punta Arenas 2025. Green Investment in Latin America and the Caribbean, Solutions with Global Scope. This event is developed within the framework of the 65th Annual Assembly of Governors of the IDB, an instance which will be undertaken during this week in our country, and where economic, financial leaders from the 48 member countries of the IDB and from the private sector as well will be discussing the challenges and opportunities of development in Latin America and the Caribbean. Today we are joined by, we are welcoming the main authorities of the country, the senior officials from international bodies, and of course the economic and financial leaders during this morning. Representatives from different sectors, ambassadors, mayors, and representatives. Also more than 100 representatives from companies both national and foreign. We want to kindly welcome His Excellency the President of the Republic, Mr. Gabriel Boric Font, and also the chair of the IDB, Mr. Ilan Goldfein, and the regional governor of Magallanes and the Chilean Antarctic, Mr. Jorge Flores, and of course, the Minister of Finance, Mario Marcel, and those who are joining us this morning, whether here or via streaming, and also the officials of the presidency. We have a key objective to move forward in your common commitment towards sustainable development and strengthen the Latin American, the Caribbean region with making it more attractive for foreign investments, committed towards the accessibility and giving a new protagonism to emerging territories. We gave the region of Magallanes and particularly Punta Arenas as a place of, as I have an example of how sustainable development, especially the development of strategic projects associated to new energy assets such as green hydrogen, can be a driver of economic, social, environmental development responsibly. This session will start with a welcoming speech by the Governor of His, followed by the interventions by the chair of the IDB and President Gabriel Boric. Now the conversation will open up with a panel, the panel of investments with a purpose, solving global challenges, where we are going to be able to know the experiences of large companies developing sustainable projects and the more global perspective from international bodies such as the IDB and OECD. We are going to start a second block with a panel about funding projects for a zero emissions future. And of course, we are going to have the presentation by the CEO of Bidinvest, James Swilling, who is going to be here as a speaker, and where we are going to be learning in the second panel about the best mechanisms for using capital towards sustainable movements and different options as well that exist. We will conclude the session with interventions from Ministry of Finance of Chile, Mario Marcel. And before we start, I'd like to remind you that this event is being broadcasted via streaming, as I told you before, through the IDB social media, Invest Chile, and of course, the Presidency of the Republic. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome the Governor of the region of Magallanes and Chilean Antarctic, Mr. Jorge Flores.
En tu publicación de LinkedIn me puedes etiquetar.
Welcome everyone, President of the Republic, Mr. Gabriel Font. Thank you so much for joining us. And then Oldfein, President of the Prince of Latin America, and also thank you to all the IDB team that has been with us this week, both in the mayors, governors, and also today in this meeting. And Mr. Mario Marcel, thank you so much as well, Minister, for thinking of Magallanes for this meeting. And then, thank you for the Minister, various professionals, and that made this event possible. And especially our director, Flores, and also the professionals that have been working so much to make this event feasible in these conditions. Statisticians, the Ministry of Magallanes are going to be joining us during this event. I also want to thank those who are here today. It's more important that we're joined by many ministers from the presidency, that the Minister of Public Works, Mr. Lopez as well, Mr. Diego Farov, a great friend of the region, and the presidential delegate, and also Mr. Jose Luis, for joining us. And then the ambassador of Canada as well, in a while, and of course, on the one of their army vessels as well, the Canadian Army, in a first meeting in this sector, so more than welcome to this region. And their secretary as well, and also Mr. Maximilian Brown, thank you so much. And we have the vice chair of Corfo, who has been the entire week with us. So thank you so much in different issues that we are going to be commenting. And I'd like to welcome a great friend of the region, former Ministry of Finance and General Manager of our mining in Codelco. So welcome, a great friend of Magallanes as well. Allow me to mention that, to welcome you with a great big hug. You are here at the most beautiful, largest region in the country, and equivalent to Greece in size, a region that embraces change, which has great opportunities in the 21st century because of its nature, its indomitable nature. Slightly water, one of the most valuable resources of the 21st century, and also something which allows us to have 5G internet. We want to bring this connectivity even to the Chilean Antarctic with a cattle racing that has more than 140 years experience in hydrocarbons. We have the NAP and Metalex team as well, who have been working for years. This experience is really useful for us for the challenges we have that we're going to be commenting during the day. And also fishing and salmon breeding. More than 20% of the natural production in the country. We are the largest producers of salmon in the world in this region. Tourism, as some of you have been able to go through, not just in Torres del Paine, but also an extraordinary growth with an Antarctic climate growing by 20-25% per year. And I want to highlight companies that have been helping us. Some of us in Antarctica 21, and with this beautiful aspect of the continent and within the country, trade, especially for those who are joining us. This region has instruments and tax incentives that are huge, from the duty-free zone, where today our trade industry is developed, and we have been talking to the Ministry of Finance to move forward to a services duty-free zone like the one in Panama. And also incentives that stimulate investment, foreign investment, just also especially when it comes to trade, not only for Chileans, but also, I know, there are many of our Argentinian brothers who are joining us with a historical friendship with our neighboring provinces. But to this effort, this huge historical effort, there are emerging elements. IT, especially in what data center and big data will be, in a region that has both social and investment safety. We are looking for independence, food independence, in the far away that we, how far away that we are, and especially for our development.
There, uh, I'd like to speak about our launch in the region of Magallanes regarding food industry and tourism and Antarctic. We hope we visit the International Antarctic Center with more than 24 countries that will be from Punta Arenas doing this leap to the Antarctic as a port, aeroport, and optical fiber in Antarctic. And as a from this visit, green hydrogen with the development of 20 projects approved this year in its RCA, 2 projects in assessment, and Magallanes today is 2% of the national internal gross GDP, and we have been able to advance in the organization of small and medium companies. And we've done a wonderful work with BIP Magallanes, the technological center that has embraced us along with Corfo in a giant work. And our regional director, with her, we have seen the governance, human development, environment, infrastructure, development, and regulations for over many years. This opportunity, to be able to take this opportunity, environmental baselines for the first time, agreements of programming for public works with Austral Port Works to develop our ports, a national policy on the topic with a very big investment made by Chile, the Association of Companies of Green Hydrogen, Strategic Committee, and an agreement with Magallanes between the state, the regional government, and the companies to offer this to the region. Today, Magallanes is living the 21st century. It wants to be a region of world science, a region connected to the world, a region of green energy, a region of opportunities, and these opportunities need partners. All those that are joining us this morning. We believe that from the South, we can contribute to improve this world more sustainable. It's at our only home, this planet. Welcome to the region of Magallanes and Chilean and Antarctic. Thank you very much. We'd like to thank the words of the governor of the region of Magallanes, and of course, we will continue inviting the speakers this morning to this stage, following up the president of the IDB, Mr. Ilan Goldfang. An applause, please. Good morning to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. Our president, Gabriel Boric Font, president of the Republic of Chile, Mr. Jorge Fríes, governor of Magallanes, Chilean Antarctic, Mr. Mario Marcel, Ministry of Finance, to the ministers Diego Bardonis and Jessica Lopez, Ministry of Public Affairs, Diego Pacheco of Codelco, and those joining us from Corfo, ambassadors, authorities, and the private sector. I'd like to tell you that we have over 50 world leaders here, presenting over 15 countries, including Canada, Colombia, France, Mexico, Germany, Italy, Spain, United States. And we have more countries, over 60 participants representing 38 companies, organizations, including Codelco and others. It's a privilege to be here in Punta Arenas, capital of the region of Magallanes, a region of high strategic importance. It has been a bridge for many conventions, and today it is positioned as a key center for investments and industrial development. I'd like to thank those that have received us these days and the earlier days before we arrived, to the President Gabriel Boric, to the Finance Ministry, our governors. Some of you might have heard a phrase saying that in Magallanes there is no bad weather, just bad clothing. And I use it to say that it's a great metaphor for the development of investment. With an adequate preparation, challenges become challenges become something to be overcome. They become an opportunity. Today is a key moment for Latin America and the Caribbean because I believe that we are key actors in the world. We are expanding our role with the advancements in industries. We are rich in resources, but also we are well positioned to be a long-term industry. We have comparative advantages. First, the resources. The region has 2/3 of lithium of the world. The energetic costs in many areas are of the most competitive ones at a global level. And often port infrastructure in regions like Magallanes can offer strategic advantages. In particular, it has an industrial base and 30 treaties with 65 economies. Around 80% of the GDP is related to this. Chile is the greatest producer of copper, the second greatest producer of lithium, that today are key for energetic security. The potential is huge. We see that Chile can generate 70 times more energy of all the energy produced in Latin America today. This is a vital capacity for the world. It's vital for Europe that today is searching for chains of provision of energetic raw materials. And Chile is well positioned as for example, as a provider of green hydrogen. I was in Germany not so long ago. This industry has the potential of creating 32,000 employments in Chile, strengthen the value chains, and generate new economic policies. Leverage these opportunities and advantages, and have a joint vision of the public and private sector to generate growth. No entity can do this alone. This importance of development is not only strategic, but a common interest that we have in all the region because it generates employment, improves productivity, benefiting companies and workers alike. And something very important, the more prosperous is Latin America and the Caribbean, the more prosperous we all will be. This is what the region is asking for from us, and that's how we are responding. We are positioning us as a development pole with bases in the private sector, IDB that has 65 years of experience, generates synergies and benefits countries and peoples. That is translated in actions and concrete realities. For example, today, 44% of the investments are channeled through here. With its model Invest Plus, it produces an increase of capital, or IB Lab that focuses on startups, the companies that are beginning. It has made several investments and has a scalable investment model. But that's not all. Investments need the adequate conditions, as well as the public sector and the IDB. It's essential to create a favorable environment for investment. Without adequate conditions, we won't mobilize resources. An efficient state is key for development of the private sector. That's why countries must be supported in institutional strengthening that must be based on policies designed for that purpose. IDB works on building stable regulatory frameworks, developing infrastructure, and training people and staff. This is essential. We are seeing how the synergy between the public and private works is important. In Chile, we are working in several areas.
Here, IDB fund is just to fund the Chilean government. The IDB contributed some of this, and is looking to reduce and mobilize up to 5 million, 5 times more. And IDB invests, our private arm, at the same time is investing on infrastructure, critical infrastructure, and working with the private sector to escalate this condition in these projects of wind energy, solar, at a large scale. But if I say just more examples of Chile, you will say, okay, well, wait. We're helping the government to consolidate the country as a hub of innovation for the region, strengthening digital infrastructure, cybersecurity, talent, technology, and artificial intelligence, helping SMEs and also both private and public parties. And I want to say, and obviously, what needs to be mentioned, it is a good example, and by being a good entry point for explorers. And what the best example, what we are doing today, the first commercial global scale plant of green fuel is built here. And it shows that when the conditions are there, industries grow, employment is created, jobs are created, and some of you will have the pleasure to visit the plant and see how innovation and investment translate into concrete impacts firsthand tomorrow. From the IDB, I want to tell you that we will continue with this role of doing a in this part in the region and the world, Chile, and the war between countries, and so on. That we are going to be, we cannot do this on our own. Now, development is not just a strategy, but it joins the region. It brings the region together in Punta Arenas, who has always looked beyond the horizon right now. And here, we are moving forward together. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to ADB Chair. We are going to remind you that there is simultaneous interpretation service. And this little device has to be facing this scenario so the service can work. Please, because many people have come a bit too close to the booth. Ok, eso lo puede ayudar con la interpretación y la transmisión inglés-español, pero para esto tienen que tener el dispositivo que es infrarrojo hacia frente del escenario. We are going to continue and now give the floor to the President of the Republic of Chile, Mr. Gabriel Boric Font. So he can please join us on the stage. Thank you so much.
Good morning to everyone. I'm so pleased and honored to receive you here in Magallanes as President of the Republic and as a Magallan President. The air of the Magallanes Strait, along with that sun that enlightens but is cold. I truly feel emotional and full of life being here. But before we start, I'd like to give a national news, not from the IDB, but I think it's important to transmit this to the press that's standing here today. Yesterday, we had several fires in the region of Araucanio and Biobío, and that's why the evacuation alerts SAE were activated. We had nearly 100 people in shelters. I'd like you to know that all the government is deployed within the framework of these fires, and we are with the affected ones and their families. Last night, the firefighting teams were deployed all the time to be able to extinguish the flames in the critical zones, especially in Traiguén. And today, They are focused on the regions where there is fire to overcome this as quickly as possible. I'd like to ask all the people in the area of the fires to follow the indications of the authorities. We have currently 27 fires that are being fought. 24 have been extinguished, controlled, excuse me, and we have to remember the importance of being responsible. We have had a season with many fires, but we have been able to control them on time. This is a result of a strengthening of CONAF and of the collaboration of the private and public sector and the support of communities. It's very important to be able to prevent this because they are mostly a human responsibility. So I'd like to insist in moments of heat waves to not make any fires in non-authorized sites, and know that we will keep supporting you. This is relevant because one of the things that we have spoken about with the IDB is precisely how we move forward in integration in Latin America with a problem that's not common. That is quite common, I'm sorry. As not so long ago, we saw this problem, that there was a problem in Bahia Blanca in Argentina. We have had permanent fires in the Amazonian sector, and our region has faced earthquakes, floods. We have we have had different types of disasters that force us to think how we face climate crisis, but also how we act together. In that sense, I like to thank the support that we have had from the IDB and of CAF as well. The IDB is working on a project to be able to generate a greater integration in the regions of disaster, and that's quite positive because IDB acts as a spokesperson between the among the government, generating an integration that is not just a rhetorical one. We are used to speaking about integration in Latin America with a lot of speech, but it's very difficult to implement this, and IDB has helped us with this task. And that's why I'd like to thank them for that. Having said this, I'd like to invite those that are not from the area to have the opportunity to go around and do the Antarctic route. Chile, as you know, is one of the 12 countries signers of the Antarctic Treaty. And not so long ago, we were with scientists and other professionals. We reached the South Pole, where all the directions are to the north, and we ratified the importance of Magallanes, our region, as the port of entry to the Antarctic for the world. In the slides that we were seeing, while Mr. Frias, the governor, was speaking, they were showing the project that we have worked so much on. We were speaking with the minister that when we about the contest we will issue this year, but it's a story that precedes us. It goes beyond those that are here present. Yesterday we were seeing a brief theatrical presentation about the pilot rescuing Shackleton in 1916 within the framework of the shipwreck. So Magallanes has a lot of history. I invite you to go to the fort of Bulnes and to know it and breathe that history. It's time to look at the strait and take a deep breath. This place, as Mario Marcel told us, and the president of the IDB, has been a place, a stage, not only of explorations to the Antarctic, but also of world commerce. It was the contact between two worlds for so long. And today, the region of Magallanes has so many opportunities, and we have to know how to leverage them. One of them, the most relevant one that summons us today, is the energy transition. The energy transition that in Chile, I speak about all the country, not only the Magallanes region. In Chile, we don't see it as a heavy load, as a sort of last minute imposition, but as a tremendous opportunity to build a new development model, giving higher added value to primal resources to the generation of new industrial poles at the hand of copper, lithium, green gold. We are generating links between schools and professional technical schools, universities, regional universities, the University of Magallanes. But it's a task with meaning as well, because it's an opportunity for business, and that's why we're here with you to reinforce the necessary collaboration between the public-private sector. But it's also a humanitarian challenge, maybe the biggest one of this generation, to face the climate crisis. That's why I was thinking before coming here, while some boast and say very provocatively at the north of the world, drill baby drill, we say at the south, clean baby clean. That's our slogan. We want to contribute from Chile for the world in a vision that it is possible, at the same time that we will replace the energetic matrix based on hydrocarbon, generate new sources of opportunity for our population. The wind that was waking up the president of the IDB is the promise of a green future here at the south. And in Magallanes, we find ourselves in a key moment to transform the industry of green hydrogen into a world of development for the future generation. And at the other extreme of the country, in Antofagasta, Tocopilla, thanks to that flaming heat of the north, it has become the first clean region of Latin America, and we meet all the conditions to be a key actors in the world industry of green hydrogen. But above all, we want Chile to grow in a sustainable fashion, and for that, it's important to generate the conditions of accrual, of transmission, of exportation, and of course, and the benefits that are generated from this industry should arrive to the citizens. One of the things that I think that the business world and the state together have learned during the last decades is that there is no possible development if that development doesn't arrive to the table of our citizens. It's not possible that to repeat old experience where great richnesses would just arrive to the hands of few people, and the communities where that developed them, those industries, remained in poverty. We cannot repeat that. We have the conviction that it's not only possible, but it's desirable to do it that way. That's why we bet on solid alliances between the public and private sector that allow a development of green investment projects that are a contribution to the global goals that we have set as humanity from the Agreement of Paris. Our commitment is to move forward with the industry of green hydrogen with the policy of state. And I think that's important, and it's a value of Chile. We're not speaking about a particular initiative of just one government. We're speaking about a state policy where, for example, ex-President Bachelet and Minister of Energy of the government of former President Piñera are contributing. This is a long-term policy, regardless of the challenges or problems of each term of government. We will continue this policy and delve into it. And regarding this, we have many challenges. Yesterday, I was speaking to many of you, and I'm fully aware that All the investors of long-term investments require certainty. Certainty doesn't mean to remove risks, but to the maximum possible. You know that in the world of entrepreneurs and short and long term, it's impossible to eliminate all the risks, but the state has to do as much as possible, which is providing long term legal certainty in all dimensions where politics may be predictable. I like predictable policies through time where are no last minute changes that change the rule of the game that puts at risk the development of the country in the long term. And that requires all the ecosystem from the tax system to the environmental assessment service have clear rules that do not change once the projects are put in force or passed. And also the shared benefit with communities that requires that developments be sustainable with the environment. And today, we have gathered wills for that, and that must be translated in clear rules, and we all have to put our greatest effort, and that's what is my commitment on behalf of the state. What are we doing now regarding the action plan for green hydrogen for 2030? This plan is in full enforcement with goals and defined objectives to install the necessary capacities to make this flourish. As part of this strategy in the next days, as the president of the IDB was saying, we are launching green hydrogen for those that want to invest in green hydrogen projects in Chile. This is a commitment of the state with multilateral institutions like the IDB that goes beyond the government to encourage the development of this industry to the long term. This makes possible that different multilateral entities like the IDB and European Bank have deposited in Chile trust for the development of this industry. There is an intangible that's very important for the development of the countries. That is trust. And that's why I would like to be optimist, because Chile has the conditions to generate trust. In spite of the growth rates, there was those that diagnosed that during the government we would come into recession, but it wasn't so. Last year, this didn't happen. So it's important to generate a system of trust.
I think Chile can do more, as we were discussing both with Minister Marcel and the chair of the IDB. Chile can do more, and we have to go back to get closer to a 4% and above numbers. But for that, we need the state to move forward with its commitment, for example, with the permits reform to nationalize permitting in Chile. Mr. Grau, the Minister of Economy, who was in the activity we held yesterday, is here because he's not here today because he had to go and finish the final part of the permits reform that is just being going through the Senate, and we're just about to get it done. We are doing our job. We need to generate this reciprocal trust and the other intangible aspects which are really important for our country and which is the basis of our development post-dictatorship, which when we went back to the democracy, and it's something really important for all the presidents that came before me, regardless of our political differences, have been caring for institutions. Here, it just doesn't work through Twitter or by changing the rules overnight. Here, we work with a long-term view, safeguarding the institutions we do have so we can move forward with a country development which is sustainable long-term. An example of this is the logistical development plan for the Magallanes and the anterior Chilean region, which is seeking to move forward with key infrastructure projects for the development of green hydrogen in the industry, such as, for example, the port terminals and the different ways. For example, I can highlight the expansion of the Mardones harbor, which we expect to start operating during 2027. In our country, dear guests, investors, and I was able to speak with some people from Italy, where the public bank from Japan is also here, from Canada as well, investors from different places of Europe. And we know that the path towards development has no shortcuts. Shortcuts, usually, in most instances where people try to do so in these aspects, take us to a dead end. And by the way, there are clear rules that, especially following investment, innovation, public and private, and also fiscal responsibility, we can do more and we will. And that's why these meetings are useful for to share these experiences. And it's really enriching to be able to talk to you, with some of you, that we have been able to discuss even more and know where the bottlenecks, which today generate difficulties for a concept that we mentioned, the last mile investment, where these bottlenecks lie. And I believe that within the legality, democratic framework, we can improve even further. But here in Chile, I insist, we have the conditions. And this is not just empty words, but this is supported by numbers. In 2024, foreign investment got to $13 billion, which is the third largest figure in the last year, so reflecting the trust of investors in our country and the certainty that are suffered by our country. We are a country that has been able to control inflation, which was inherited from the pandemic, that they rose due to it, and has gone back to a growth path without transmitting passing these costs on neither to the most vulnerable families nor the middle class. Now, here we need to grow, and we have to distribute things better. And these are not opposite things. As a president, as a progressive president, I'm convinced that you can move in parallel in both roads, better growth and better distribution of wealth, so we can have a cohesive society which sees the concrete benefits of development in all aspects, not just for a few. From this far away southernmost land where the world ends and begins, I want to tell you that you have the commitment from Chile, from our government, and from myself as a President of the Republic to collaborate with all countries, economies, investors, and companies that can share this path with us. The IDB shares the commitment is very true and part of the fundamental strategy of Chile in these uncertain times. And this is a state strategy, which is diversification of our partners. We have treaties with 65 economies in the world, and we are working very strongly to reduce reliance on large powers. I have been to India. I'm going to India on Sunday with a delegation of business people, scientists, authorities, to be able to open up new markets for our country. During the year, I'm also going to be in Japan. We have been in China, in the US, in Europe. We signed the update of the framework agreement with the European Union after 20 years of a free trade agreement. And right now, in these uncertain times for the global economy, where there are some who are betting on protectionism, closing borders, we're saying no, we need to collaborate more. We need to seek where we can adjust the pieces of the puzzle. It's not just one piece on its own. This is Chile's political stance when it comes to integration with the world. Integration with the world and political strategic autonomy. We are not going to be subordinate to anyone. From Chile, we believe we can have relationships with all the world following the principles which have inspired our international policy, which is why I'm most optimistic regarding the future of my country and also the region, because we're working together with institutions like the IDB, but also public-private cooperation, I am sure that we can achieve an outcome which is more egalitarian, sustainable over time, and benefits all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, President Gabriel Boric, for his words. Now, we want to please have the to all the leaders of the institutions that are organizing this to come closer. So we'd like to ask the officers from these institutions to come to the station. Please, everybody stand up so they can appear in this official photo that will now be taken. Okay? It's going to be an official photo.